All right. Welcome back to another episode of Responsibly Irresponsible. Today, we have a guest, Leah, aka my wife. And then we have Cliff as usual.
Whoa, wow. Hooray. Wow.
But today, we have a special, or not we, but Cliff has a special announcement. Why don't you?
See, I don't like to see this announcement thing because, like, look, I'm not like you guys, bro. I don't like titles, okay? I don't do, like, human things like that. All right. How do you want me to say it? Like, it's not even a thing that you announce. You just do it. And then people scold you later on.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so I guess I mean I'm not consuming animal products currently. You can put whatever title on that you'd like, but we'll talk about that soon.
So you're basically you're going plant-based.
Yes, because I'm definitely wearing leather. Sorry, guys.
No, I mean, maybe we should just get into it now then about like the differences between like veganism versus plant-based versus vegetarian, that type of stuff.
Yeah, no, we should definitely do that because most people, we just put them all together.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common thing is like people confuse veganism and vegetarianism. I feel like the most. Feel like people don't understand the difference, and then when you throw plant-based in there, they're like, okay, what the heck is that? Is that something different? Is that the same? So I guess I'll start with just start with veganism. So veganism is basically the practice, we'll call it the practice of not consuming any animal products, anything that is animal derived. So, obviously your foods like your chickens, your meats, your cheeses, your eggs, that type of stuff. And then like your animal derived foods like gelatin, lard. There's certain like coloring agents. I forget the one that I'm thinking of that it's called. There's a red coloring agent that they put in a lot of candies these days that is actually made from crushed up beetle shells. And then
that sounds absolutely gross, actually.
Yeah. Honestly, when you get into like talking about how a lot of our food is made in terms of like the animal, I mean, food in general can be kind of like, why is it made like that? But when you talk about like how animal foods are made and how certain animal derived things are put in there into foods, and you're just like, why is that in there? That's disgusting.
Is there just no other way to make red?
Oh,
like,
no,
I feel like we've advanced far enough.
Yeah, it's definitely that's where profitability comes in, and it's just more profitable for them to do that because it's just what they've done for a certain period of time, and it's just more affordable. Yeah. So it's just it comes with like that's the status quo. That's just like what companies have done, and then also it's like they would have to put the time and money and energy into figuring out a vegan alternative to that. So it's like they just, it's all about the money. So
yeah, and I think another interesting thing is like, besides when people think vegan, they automatically think, okay, they don't eat any like cows, like pigs, like all the things that are kind of in our face. But you had mentioned earlier about honey, and I think that's a really interesting.
Oh yeah, I just sent you a text about honey this afternoon.
Yeah, so I think that's a really interesting topic, and like I know Leah has done lots of research in that. So I mean, why don't you like talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, because when I first went vegan, I mean, like Corin said, like you obviously have this stuff that's like very clearly not vegan, which is like your chickens and your meats and stuff like that. But then when it comes to more like I don't know the word, but just like less specific things like honey, and then like, like I said, like the coloring agent, it starts with a C. I can't remember what it's called. But so with honey, I remember being like, oh my gosh, I love honey. I drink tea all the time. I put honey in like oatmeal and ice cream and stuff like that. I was like, what the heck is wrong with honey? It's natural. But then when I looked into it, essentially with current beekeeping practices today, at least ones that are done on a large scale, I can't speak for like family owned operations. But ones that are done on like large scales, they typically use very harmful, like, I wish I knew like all the technical terms for this type of stuff off the top of my head, but basically like the gas that they use to put the bees in a like less aggressive state for them to be like, you know, messing with them and stuff and not get stung, can be very detrimental for the beehive's health and individual bee health like overall. And then on top of that, when they take the honey out from the hive to be produced for human consumption, you know, a lot of people don't consider that the honey is a food source for the hive throughout the winter, throughout the year. Like they eat that, they eat what they make. So we're taking that from them. But on top of that, we, you know, they have to eat something. So common bee practice today is they replace it with a type of corn syrup. And that has been, studies have shown that, you know, obviously that affects bee health negatively, because basically you're just replacing their natural food source with a processed sugar that they're eating. And that affects their ability to function like a normal hive. And then the most cruel aspect of it, I think, which is I literally cried when I heard this, because I'm just like an animal obsessed person. But the queen bee, basically the queen or the hive will follow the queen wherever she goes. So to keep the hive stationary where they want, so that they can continue to profit off of their honey production, they will actually remove the queen from the hive and clip or completely remove her wings, so that she can never fly away ever again. So that basically they make her a prisoner, which, like, it sounds so dramatic. It's like, oh, it's like, who cares about bees, you know? But it's like, you know, bees are vital. It's like, people don't realize this. Bees are so vital to our ability to function as humans on this planet. Our ability to survive here is like solely dependent upon bees, because other pollinating insects and you know, stuff like birds and butterflies and stuff, like they I wish I knew the percentage, I could look it up, but like the level at which they help pollinate stuff is like nowhere near what bees do for our planet, especially for like crops that we consume. So it's like, if bees die off, essentially we will die off, because the foods that we live off of won't be able to be produced at the rate that they're produced now. So it's like, you know, I think that, you know, morally speaking, at least in the way that honey is produced on a grand scale, I just think it's wrong. I think it's, so that, you know, for people who are like, oh, but, you know, shouldn't be, you know, honey be vegan, blah, blah, blah. That is the essential answer for why vegans should not consume honey. So you know.
Okay, so your husband's response to me was that I should look for local bee farms or something like that. If I'm going to consume honey.
If you choose to consume honey on like to put it in your recipes or like whatever you choose to do with it, I think that, you know, going to a local source would be the best option if you choose to, you know, consume honey.
I mean, I think that is, I don't know. You know, if you want to get really technical, and, you know, that kind of plays into like what the real definition of veganism is, because there are some vegans out there who get very like up in arms and in your face, because like truly, like, if you want to nitpick it, if you eat anything that is animal derived, you can't necessarily call yourself a vegan. But like, you know, to each their own. So, and it's like, who can police like the term vegan, like who's allowed to call themselves that or not? You know, I feel like it's like, if you want to call yourself that, it's fine, because it's like, it's not really like a regulated term,
I mean, I feel like it is.
Yeah. I mean, what, like, you feel like it's regulated?
Well, no. So here, we'll come back to that because I want you to go ahead and explain vegetarian and plant-based, and then we'll come back to it.
So obviously, like, we have the veganism side, which I said is like no animal-derived foods, but then also your leathers, your wool, your what's other stuff made from, like, your silk, your stuff like that, was obviously comes from an animal. So the difference between veganism and vegetarianism is vegetarianism, people who are vegetarian or claim to be vegetarian typically will still consume, typically it's dairy and eggs, or a like interchanging of the two. Some people will only eat eggs, some people will only eat cheese and not milk. Like, so I feel like veganism is, or I keep changing the words, vegetarianism is a more like vague, broad term because it like could mean several different things.
Okay.
Whereas when someone says that they're vegan, if they're truly vegan, they like, that has a very clear definition of, I don't eat any animal derived foods. I don't buy or purchase any animal derived products. There's a very clear stance of, I do not support any form of animal consumption. Okay. Where veganism or vegetarianism, gosh, I wish the words weren't so similar. Vegetarianism is a little more like, I know some vegetarians that still buy leather. I know some vegetarians that only eat eggs. I know some who only drink milk, that type of thing. So. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. And it can be very confusing because the words are so similar and therefore people feel like they're interchangeable, but they are two very different, distinct things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And for the last one in the trio, for plant-based, what's plant-based?
So plant-based is essentially people who, and this is going to sound like... This is going to sound salty, but I don't mean it to sound salty. This is plant-based is basically a term that I feel like came up, or at least that I have only heard of in the last couple of years. And it's basically a term for people who like want to be vegan in diet, but only in diet. Like they only eat vegan, but like they still buy leather. They still support animal businesses that benefit from animal products in other ways. You know what I mean? Like,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like they eat a vegan diet, but in like ethically, like they don't have a problem consuming animal products in other ways. So.
Okay. All right.
That's basically what that is.
Okay. So. All right, so back to what we were talking about earlier with the vegan thing. I don't know, maybe you might agree with this. I feel as if the plant-based term, now that I understand what it means in full, I feel like people were starting to use the plant-based terminology instead of the vegan thing. Because, like, vegan just has so much backlash to it. Because there's some vegans who are just mad obnoxious and, like, bro, like, I just don't care that much. So, like...
Yeah, because there's people that have ruined it for other people because, you I don't know. I don't care who you are. You hear vegan and you automatically think of that, that lady screaming in a mall or like some Karen, you know what I mean? So it's like...
It's like mad obnoxious.
It's like... It ruins it, but it's like you'd be surprised how many actual vegans there are that are vegan, but they're not like going out of their way to scold people because they choose a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like... sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I mean, like, there's definitely people who are like you said, they ruin it for everybody, where they're very, passionate about their stance on, I mean, essentially they, they're right.
There's a thin line between annoying and passionate. It's a very thin line.
And I mean, it's like, they are right in like what the words that are coming out of their mouth, but it's just like,
their delivery.
It's like you have to,
I mean, like, think of it.
Know.
Think of like Joaquin Phoenix. He's a very avid vegan, and he even participates in a lot of the rallies.
Yeah, like
but
activism.
his speech at the Grammys?
No, it was the gold. Well, not the Golden Globes.
Actors do not get Grammys, man.
Yeah, I was like, bruh.
Come on, dude.
Sorry.
I think it was the Golden Globes.
The Golden Globes, okay.
Yeah.
Well, his speech at the Golden Globes was very well said and like very, I don't know, it was very touching the way he expressed his feelings on the matter. Like you can tell he was very serious, but it was in a way that was like, you know, he was just stating fact, and like he was just giving people the facts, and it wasn't like, okay, like, yeah, you guys are terrible people. It was more like, this, you have to understand this is what you're doing. Like, this is the result of what you're doing, whether you know it or like you're ignorant to it.
Yeah, I feel like there's the vegans who live by example, and then there's the vegans who want to, like, who, you know, they cross that line of being passionate about something into being like
forceful.
Yeah, into being like forceful, into being like, it's like, no matter how justified you feel in something or how right you even may be about something, people don't like to have something shoved down their throats. People don't like to be told what to do. So it's like, it's, in my personal opinion, I mean, there are studies that show that that kind of activism does work. But at the same time, in my opinion, I don't like making people feel like that. You know what I mean? So I was just like, I prefer the more of like Joaquin's style of activism, where it's like you just live by example, and it's like people look at that and they're like, oh, maybe there is a different way of doing things, and not feel like they're being forced or like guilted into doing something. So
yeah, exactly. Like that, the idea behind like guilting someone into changing is never going to work.
Yeah,
like,
and that goes for anything, not just veganism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like as I was, you know, going through trials and trying to figure out, you know, changing my diet, how that would be. Thankfully, I didn't meet too many people who were that they were passionate about, of course, their choices of what they consume, but never like in a forceful way where like their lifestyle is so much better and grandiose because I decided to not consume animals.
Yeah, it was like never in a negative way.
Because it's like at the end of the day, it's like where if you are like bashing someone for what they decide to eat, like that's how they were raised and taught to eat. So like that's part of their lifestyle. And a lot of people who are vegan grew up eating animals too. So it's like I don't understand like why there's like so much like animosity when like trying to teach the message.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like it kind of goes along with one of those things. I was actually thinking about this recently, where it's like people don't know something until they know it. You know what I mean? So It's like you aren't necessarily aware of something that you're doing that could be potentially harmful to your health, or, you know, not even necessarily that, but a diet that could be better for your health. Then, you know, it's like you're not going to be aware of that until you look into it yourself or you learn about it for yourself. And I feel like veganism is one of those things where it's like you can be the type of person to live like by example, and, you know, just be the kind vegan, and like when people ask you questions, just like answer them with like, you know, happily and be nice and that type of thing, and don't guilt people into it. But also like I just lost my train of thought. But also like what was I saying? I was saying about sorry, I hate when that happens. It's like but
not forcing people into thinking a certain way.
Yeah, that people have to learn for themselves. It's one of those things people have to learn for themselves, you know?
It's like, and it's the thing too. I mean, okay, how long now have we known that cigarettes cause lung cancer? It's like humans are going to do what they want to do. Perfect and I'm not going to judge you either way, but it's like we all know what the results of our actions are, whether we are aware of it or not, but most of us are aware of it. And if that's how I mean, look, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I respect that. 100%, I respect that. But just know like there's other options.
Yeah. It's like how you said with like the tobacco industry, it's like you can make someone aware of something that they're doing that could be negatively affecting their health, and the environment and, you know, anything else. But it's just one of those things where it's like they just have to figure that out for themselves. It's like if they're not going to listen to you, you know, then they just have to figure it out for themselves.
Okay, so now that I now understand I've kind of understood all of them for the most part. I'm just, you know, I'm not, you know, illiterate. You can pick up a book. But so far as figuring out which one you like you slot into, right? So most people, from my understanding, before you just explain it to me, vegetarians, I just figured that they were people who don't eat meat, but like you said, consume milk, eggs, whatever. Some of them cheese, whatever the case may be. Someone that's plant-based, basically like myself. Listen, I have a sneaker problem, okay? And most sneakers just happen to be made of leather. And like I can't like control that. So it's just do you know of any options far as someone who was, let's say, wanting to go full vegan and take away like, you know, leather and other goods that are made from animals? I don't even know like vegan sneaker companies. Like, I don't even know, dude.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know, to be fair, I feel like there are times that I still consume leather, but I buy it secondhand. And it's like, so I don't buy it directly from the companies that are mass producing it. So I'm not directly supporting that type of industry. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you know, you can have this conversation with so many different vegans and you'll get so many different opinions on it. But it's like there are vegans who, you know, don't participate in the direct, you know, consumption of something. But like if I go to like a Goodwill or something and find a pair of shoes that I like and they happen to be made of leather, I will buy them, because to me, I'm not directly supporting the industry that I don't want to support. So like that, for me, that's how I justify that. But there are some vegans who just don't want to own leather at all whatsoever, and that's totally fine. That's their prerogative. So it's like there is a little bit of wiggle room there, in my opinion, but that's where each person's individual conscience comes into play.
Gotcha. So I admire your effort. I really do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like I still own a pair of leather shoes that I bought prior to being vegan. Like anything that I own that is animal derived prior to being vegan, other than the food, I had to get rid of all the food because I physically can't consume it. But for my gut health, but like I still have like a silk shirt. I still own leather shoes, you know, that type of stuff. So I think there are options out there, but it has to be one of those things where it's like it's not heavily marketed or as marketed as like, you know, as leather goods are marketed to us, you know, because they're more mass produced. So it's like those options are out there, but it's like you have to go actively look for them. It's not something that's going to be like in your face like the animal products will be. So, but then on top of that, I feel like there are companies and brands that are vegan unintentionally. Like they don't have animal like products in their goods, and that just happens to be a coincidence. They don't advertise as being vegan, but then you look into it and you're like, oh, doesn't have any leather in it. I thought it would have. So it's like, you know, there are those like happy coincidences every now and then. So
gotcha.
Yeah. And
like, I mean, so you guys have been consistent. How long have you guys been vegan now? What has it been? A couple months? Year?
I've been for a little over a year now.
Okay.
So I went vegan last summer.
She's been probably like a year and a half, and I've probably been
more like a year and like a handful of months, but yeah.
Okay, enough. Yeah. And I've been steady for probably a year.
In October, he'll be a year.
Yeah, in October, it'll be a year.
You guys are so married. Oh my God. Okay.
I lived to correct my husband.
All right. So as you guys are into this now, and as I'm joining you on this journey, what in your experience has been some of the biggest misconceptions?
Oof. Babe, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. I know it's a loaded question. It's a lot.
The big misconceptions about I don't know. It's
Just
like
everything. There's so many things you
anything.
could say. There's everything.
Yeah, there's so many, honestly. There's so
I
many.
mean, the biggest one that I thought before going vegan was that you couldn't build muscle or
like get enough protein.
or get enough protein being vegan.
Oh, that's a big one.
And it's pretty much the opposite. But I will say that eating vegan, you do need to know more about what you're eating.
Yeah, you have to be more aware of what you're putting in your body to make sure that you are getting your like essential, like make sure you are getting enough protein, you are getting enough carbs, you are getting.
You have to
enough
plan.
fats.
You have to plan out your meals more. I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't just like, I mean, the easiest thing in the world is going to a fast food place and just ordering a meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with being vegan, it's like, you know, you have to know, okay, this is like my starch, this is my protein, and then like this is like I'm gonna get certain vitamins and minerals from these things that will be good for me. And like you have to like you have to like mix it all. Like you have to have a full. As being a vegan, you have to make sure you're having a full
balanced
meal.
diet.
Yes, exactly.
Definitely. You have to be more aware of the balance, I think. And I think what's funny, what you said, babe, about like going to fast food and like getting a meal made me think of it's funny when non-vegans ask me like one of their first questions is, that's a big one, is like, where do you get your protein? How do you build muscle? And it's like, what's funny to me about that is that like never, even before I was vegan, I didn't know how much protein was in chicken. I didn't know how much protein was in steak. I didn't know how much protein was in
rice.
Yeah, so it's like when people ask me that, I'm like, I want to turn around and be like, how much protein are you eating? Do you even know? I'm like, why? It's like, why is that your first question? You want to ask me how much protein I'm getting? I know how much protein I'm getting. Do you know how much protein you're getting? Like, it's like, you don't freaking know. So it's like, I just think it's such a funny, like, question, because I feel like people have their blinders on when they ask that. It's like, oh, where do you get your protein from? And I'm like, dude, where do you get your protein from? Like, you don't know how much protein is in that bucket of chicken you're eating. Shut up. like
protein, calories, like it's all this is man-made concepts as far as I'm concerned. Like it's what we've been taught. The same reason why we think milk makes your bones stronger, which is so stupid.
Which is false, can I just say?
Propaganda.
It actually does the opposite of that. In populations where there's high consumption of dairy, there's higher amounts of people with like bone disease. So like that is completely false. Like
and then another one. I'm sorry to cut you off. The one that just popped in my head about tofu and soy.
Oh, that's a big one.
Oh my goodness!
I actually wrote a note about this because I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, the whole testosterone. Like, oh, if you eat soy, you know, you're gonna get bunches of estrogen.
You're a soy boy.
You're gonna become a woman. It's like
soy boy.
It's like actually, by me eating soy, I'm getting more testosterone than you are eating, you know, meat. And I mean, you said you did research. What kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the estrogen that's found in soy, because that's another misconception, since we're like talking about the misconceptions, it's like for a guy to go vegan, like the big macho guys are like, oh, you're going to turn into a woman because you're having estrogen from soy. But actually the estrogen that's found in soy, is called phytoestrogen. And it mimics real estrogen, but it's totally different from actual estrogen that our body naturally makes, and the estrogens found in dairy and in eggs. So phytoestrogen can actually attach to the estrogen receptors in our body and displace the estrogen in other foods, which is great because it actually helps regulate how much estrogen we actually take in. So, you know, to all the haters out there saying, like, if you eat soy, you're going to get too much estrogen and, like, not enough testosterone, the opposite is actually true. So, like, by eating phytoestrogen and soy, it will block those receptors in your body that estrogen from dairy attaches to and raises the estrogen levels in your body. So yeah.
I have to say too is the most I think the most amazing thing about being vegan and knowing what you eat is the fact that being vegan makes your body run how it's supposed to. So in that fact, like how you're talking about the phytoestrogen, women obviously produce more estrogen and males are supposed to produce more testosterone. So that in that way, when you're eating these the right, the right diet as far as like your vegetables and if you're getting that soy protein, it's your body is better to regulate what you're getting and what you need. So women are getting their estrogen and men are getting the testosterone they need. So it's just like that's a beautiful thing, I think, of being vegan, is that you're giving your body what it needs to run the way it's supposed to. And the fact that a lot of people out there don't know how their body runs correctly. They think they do, but they don't because they refuse to, try the right way.
Just like anything, it's like those are things that you have to learn. Like I said, like no one knows how much protein is in chicken just off the top of their head. It's like people aren't naturally aware of these things unless they actively try to learn about it. So it's like, I don't know. I think
it's just the thing. Ignorance is bliss, and people love to be ignorant. Because
there's so many things that's always just said, and like we just take it for what it is, and we just go with it.
Yeah,
just like
and it's
when people
and
say,
it's also marketing on top of that.
Yeah, and
that's
marketing.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Is the marketing of this stuff and like what is portrayed in the media. Like these companies, these meat companies, and like these dairy companies control way more than we think they control.
Oh
and
my god! All the way down to like bills being passed in Congress. Yeah. Like
that's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a whole like.
The
if
propaganda is heavy in this one.
Yeah, if you want to get into like the conspiracy theory aspect of it, but like, I mean, it's not even conspiracy theory.
No, it's not a conspiracy
theory. It's like
theory.
Actual like fact that it's proven that like there's businesses like big meat companies who are involved and who like for instance pay or give like large donations to certain like members of Congress and stuff like that. So those people are then incentivized to pass the laws that these big meat companies want them to pass. So it's like, that's not even like conspiracy. That actually is stuff that happens. So it's like
so basically it's like, everyone kind of has that like, thought in their head, like there's these people at a table that are making all the decisions in the world, like, and they're all like, oh yeah, these are like war leaders and like presidents and like the oil companies. And it's like maybe oil, but the oil guy is sitting right next to the guy that controls the meat industry and the guy that controls the chicken industry and the guy that controls the dairy industry. It's like, those are the guys that are pulling the strings, and it's just crazy to think that that's what happens.
And, even to this day there are still laws that are put in place still now in 2020 that are called ag-gag laws that actually are like legally the meat companies don't have to show you behind the scenes of how their meat is produced and how the animals are actually treated. And there's actually laws in place that, like, if I were to go onto a large factory farm and to try to record inside the farm and release it, I could be charged with a felony for doing that. So, like, yeah, it's kind of wild, but
And I mean, Cliff, we've talked about this on the podcast several times about how this is becoming the age of people wanting to know and people being verbal and people speaking out. And, more and more people, you see these documentaries of people speaking out and finding out the truth. And, these big companies are trying to shut that down. But, the more and more people that just refuse to abide by that, even like you said, laws that refuse information to get out, like vital information to get out to the public, it's just becoming more and more common. And I think that's, in that aspect, I think it's great.
Yeah. Like, I mean, on another note, one thing that I always thought was interesting about when I was first researching, how, like, what it's like to change your diet, what it could do for your body. Like, one of the things that always gets said, and like we all just like agree with it without even like looking into it, is just like, oh well, such and such runs in my family. Like, oh, diabetes runs in my family. High cholesterol runs in my family. I'm like, like that always sounded crazy to me. And then like the more research you do is like, well, it makes sense that it runs in your family because we're all eating the same things, or we're all doing the exact, like there's a reason why, like you don't inherit disease. And so like it's just, I don't know. I feel like we're more controlled than we think we are.
I mean, in your genetics, you can be more like genetically
susceptible,
like have a predisposition for it, but that does not necessarily mean that like your health is destined, and that like your grandparent died from heart disease, so you're destined to die from heart disease because it's genetic. Like, no, it's like it's funny. I was actually, in preparation for this, I was watching a TED Talk by a what's his name? A Dr. Michael Clapper, I think. He's a heart surgeon, I believe. He's a vegan heart surgeon. And he was talking about how, like, some of the most preventable diseases that we have, like type 2 diabetes and hypertension and Crohn's disease and God, I can't think of all the ones off the top of my head, but like he said that these were all like preventable diseases, and there are studies show that a lot of these diseases are linked to animal consumption. So it's like, it's funny, there's actually on the World Health Organization website, they have a article about the 10 top causes of death for humans every year, and the top one is heart disease, and right below that is stroke. And studies have actually shown that eating a diet high in animal flesh can actually heavily contribute to those issues. And fun fact, processed meats were classified as a group 1 carcinogen, which basically means it has been proven to cause cancer, and it's in the same category as tobacco smoking and asbestos. So like, there's
she said she came on here to drop the facts. She came on here to drop the facts.
Okay. Sorry, I feel like
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's was, I think, I might be wrong on this, but like that was fairly recent that the World Health Organization classified meat as a group 1 carcinogen, and then red meat as a group 2A carcinogen, which means that it could possibly cause cancer. So like, but processed meats like is a group 1, so that means that they have studies that prove, there's evidence that they cause cancer. Like, not just, ooh, maybe, like, if you eat this, your chances of cancer go up. Like, no, these cause cancer, so do not eat them. That's your bacon, that's your sausage, that's your deli meats,
hot dogs,
like your burgers. Like, do not eat these. It's this literally, like, we could talk about the difference of like, the harmful level of smoking versus eating processed meats. Obviously that's a little different, but it is actually proven that they cause cancer. So like, if you're not going to be vegan, at least please stop eating your processed meats, because like it's really, really bad for you.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, my thing is like, this stuff should be, well, maybe I'm asking for a perfect world where everything with growing up in school, you learn about other options and ways of life, and things that are outside of the norm that that way, like, we at least have like the information on hand. Like, there's so many things now where it's like, if you're going to form an opinion or do something that's to the left, I guess, you have to like build and find all the information yourself, and then you're just like, wow, why didn't anybody tell me this before?
Exactly. Yeah. And the main reason it's not in schools and like we're not taught this is because of these companies are making it so that we don't know.
Exactly.
Like, because they're blinding us from that information.
For instance, along with the like processed meats being a group 1 carcinogen, and like the overall health of like what eating meat does to your body, I saw something earlier that said, and I don't know exactly the validity of this statement, that it said that just for a male, eating just 2.5 servings of dairy a day, so that could be, milk in your cereal, cream cheese on your bagel, and a dollop of sour cream on something else, just 2.5 servings of dairy a day increases your risk of getting prostate cancer by 30%, which is insane. I know that's just a number, so it's like, it's like hearing that number, you're like, oh, maybe that's not that much, but like, I don't want my risk of anything related to death to be increased by any %. Thank you. So like,
exactly. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Dang.
So, I mean, and if you think about it, it's like, it goes way deeper than, that there's reasons why this information isn't plastered on billboards everywhere. And it's because these companies, they profit off of this. They profit off of you being sick. And they, and then like, that's why I was saying, like, before we started, like, what do we want to focus on? Because like, it kind of just like snowballs into one thing after another, because you could talk about how, by eating meats, the rate that they, produce meats in our country, like, a lot of these animals get infections and diseases and stuff that they have to be treated with antibiotics. And then you're buying these meats that have been so heavily saturated with antibiotics just for them to be safe for safe quotation marks for human consumption, that by eating a heavy diet in like chickens and steaks and that type of stuff, you can actually develop a immune response where you are your body resists antibiotics. So if you get a serious illness and you need an antibiotic to cure it, your body can actually resist the antibiotic. So it's like, it goes into like the meat industry bleeds over into like the pharmaceutical industry, and how like they profit off of us being sick, and like the antibiotics don't work, so you just continually buy medicine that isn't helping you because of these resistances that you've acquired from eating this poor meat that you're putting into your body. It's just like such a flawed system on so many different levels. That
actually, the system is not flawed. The system itself is perfect.
Oh, the system is genius. The system is genius and clever, but it is not good for our health. It is not good for the planet. It's not good for our mental, and it's literally across the board. It's just slowly killing us. So, yeah. not to get real, like real fast, but like, like if you want to get real, like it really is. It's like,
listen, Leah said she was prepared today, man. She had time today.
Yo, you said we were talking about veganism on the podcast. I came ready. Because if I'm being honest, I don't really talk about this stuff with like people in my everyday life, because I realize that, it is kind of a controversial topic, if you will. People don't really want to hear this stuff. People don't like change. People don't like changing their habits. They don't like being told that they're wrong. So it's like
people don't like being told that they're slowly killing themselves.
Yeah.
Which is a weird concept to me.
And it's because, people have a very close connection with food. It's like, if you think about it, food is a part of our culture. It's part of how we, form relationships with people. It's like a lot of how we interact as human beings is based around food. So it's like, people have such a close, bond with what they put in their bodies, and they should. So it's like, when you tell them that something that they're putting in their body is potentially hurting them, and it's like, people just don't want to hear that. So it's like, so I don't, me and Corin typically are very like, I feel like we're very discreet vegans. Yeah. Like we're very like, we don't really talk about this stuff to people, like, unless they ask. Like we're never the ones to bring it up first, because,
But I'm definitely not one of the vegans that's gonna let someone tell me what I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah,
that's where I draw a line.
I'd be like, sir, I will hit you with the facts.
Like, yeah, let me get my notebook. Hold on 1 second.
Let me put down my carrot so I can learn you some facts.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool now that I have people in my everyday life that are also doing this type of stuff. Because I initially learned about this through a couple of athletes that I follow, and they were just trying it out, and That's when I first had the idea to try it, and when I got scolded by your husband. But now that he's on the right side now.
Yeah, you're on the right side now, babe.
No. A weird thing that just popped in my head too is when actually we had to go to the hospital, they took Leah's blood, and for some reason they took a couple of vials and they didn't use some of the vials, or they just left them.
It was weird.
And there was a part in one of the documentaries that I very highly suggest.
The Game Changers.
The Game Changers. They go. They.
It's
they
a documentary focused on, because my husband's gonna leave this part out. It's a documentary focused on plant-based and vegan athletes.
So they test a bunch of athletes and they give them like one a vegan meal and the others just are like something they eat on the regular, like the stuff their trainers tell them to eat. And they show them their blood after one meal, and then they show them after 2 and 3, and the fat in their like plasma of their blood was like ridiculous for the people that were eating like the meat and the animal product. And then for the guy that was eating, he was still eating fat. He was eating avocado, which is very high in fat, but it was a plant-based plant-based fat. And then it was like he was just eating beans or something like that. It was like a burrito. And like how the difference was. And I got her vial because I was like, oh snap, we can actually do this too. And I looked in it, and I don't know what her blood looked like before, so I couldn't really compare, but just remembering what it looked like in the documentary, it was like so clear and like it looked healthy.
Not to totally debunk what you just said, babe, but like in the documentary, you have to keep in mind they put the blood in a centrifuge, which actually spins it at such a high rate, it separates the blood and the plasma. So you can see the fat in the, like, actually like your fat content from your blood. But like, you are right. Like looking at my blood, it looked like.
Yeah. And it wasn't like they just took her blood and I was looking at it and I was like, oh yeah, it's clear. It literally had been sitting there for like 3 hours. So
yeah, true.
A centrifuge is supposed to do that. It's supposed to like separate, and like that's just the natural, like when something's sitting there, it's obviously going to naturally separate. So I mean it technically was a little bit, yeah, you're right that it probably wasn't to the extent as like using one of those things, but it still was pretty close.
It was wild to see my blood in a vial. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
But, all right. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm glad that, I guess in this social media thing, everybody's kind of open about their choices and preferences and what they're trying. And as you can, in the last 3 or 4 years, you can see a lot of athletes are coming out trying it. A lot of celebrities are doing it too.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix is no surprise. I mean, his mom's like one of the biggest like vegans on the, like, bro, all her kids are named like after River. I think her nickname is like Heart, bro. Like, really? Come on. Like, it's no surprise that they're vegan. Like, dude, like their whole family is mad. I don't even want to call them like hippies, but like they're very one with the earth.
Yeah, they're very
and I respect that. So, but no, I think it's cool that a lot of celebrities that you can look up to, kind of not look up to, but you can kind of look at as a reference point, because a lot of them are open about them deciding to trying to switch their diet and what it's done for them. I think the first person I ever seen that actually like made me like take a step back and look at it was Jared Leto.
Oh.
Because like Jared Leto's been vegan forever, and like, bro, this guy just does not age, bro. He just Joker, doesn't age. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you look at him from when he was 22, I don't know how old he is now, but I think he's closer to 50 than he is 40.
Yeah, he's way older than he looks, bro. He's so young.
And it's like, dang. He's like, yeah, I haven't.
He's doing something I need to be doing.
Yeah, it's just, I was like, wow, okay. But yeah, it's just it's an interesting experience, and I recommend everybody at least try it. To do it once, see what it looks, see how you feel.
Yeah, do it for a week. Do it for a week and
do it for a month. Do it for a month.
See how it makes you feel, and if you want to go back,
worst case scenario, go get some chicken. It's like worst case scenario, you can just go back. So it's like you don't really have anything to lose. So.
I think honestly, people are afraid they're gonna like it.
Yeah, because like I said, people are afraid of change.
Yep.
So I think it's a subconscious, like they are afraid they might like it, so they just want to reject it. Because I know if they accept it, that they're gonna have to change their lifestyle, and they don't want to do that. So.
Hey, one step at a time, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Leah, thank you for bringing up the facts and coming out with the. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to call it propaganda because that's negative, but I just love that word. It just flows so easily. Just propaganda.
I said that earlier trying to be funny, and now it just kind of stuck. So it's like,
this is the veganism propaganda. We'll go with that.
Yeah, our vegan propaganda show.
The vegan propaganda show. Thank you for, like I said, pulling up the statistics and saying a lot of words that I did not know what they meant until just now. I think it's very good that we have at least we can use this platform to at least talk about our journey with it. How we feel, how our bodies are changing. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to be the one that's going to scold you for eating bacon, bro. Like, I ate bacon for most of my life. I love bacon, actually. But I understand there's other ways for me to consume food and to be better. So we'll actually have we'll have vegan. We'll have vegan Leah back on again at some point in time, so we could do some more debates. You're gonna have to have a I don't know. What are some other diets where people just like strictly eat meat and carbs and all that? Yeah, I don't even know what these diets are called.
Which I used to eat paleo prior to being vegan. Fun fact. So I do know a little bit about that.
I'll go find some paleo friends and we'll come on and we'll talk about.
Oof, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm just gonna be the mediator. I'm not even gonna say anything.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to come prepared for that. But I was born to debate because I love telling people they're wrong because I'm vegan. So.
Awesome. All right, well, that's about it, man. Thank you guys for listening for another episode. Be sure to check us out on all social media platforms at responsibly__irresponsible, and a Twitter account at responsiblyIRR. We'll be having some updates on there soon. I think we got a little special episode planned for you guys too, so be on the lookout for that. But until next time, peace.
Peace.